And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Friday the 13th, Horror at Camp Crystal Lake. Do you know there's a lake right outside my house called Camp Crystal? No one seems to have a problem with that, but this is a light horror game. Friday the 13th is a fairly scary movie. A lot of people, it's definitely gone down in history with Jason Voorhees and hockey masks and all that stuff. Was there even a hockey mask at camp? I don't know. I don't watch many horror movies. But this is actually based on another game that already exists called Quartz. Quartz is a push your luck game where you're pulling gems from a bag and trying not to bust to pull the bad gems. Well, this uses that system but adds this horror theme to it. Let me show you. In this game, it's going to take place over 5 nights, and after all the nights are over, whoever has the most blood-splattered points is the winner of the game. You're going to get those by going out and exploring in the woods. And players are going to start with some fear cards in their hand, and then each round of the game, players are going to take an action on their turn. So you have multiple actions that you can do. You can search for supplies. That's pretty easy. You just reach your hand into the bag, and you pull out a chip. Hey, I found a pan. You're going to put that chip on your card. Each player has a card showing you essentially your characters with the diva, the jock, the final girl, the partier, and the nerd. So you'll pull that. Now, there's lots of different chips. Some of them are going to be worth various points. You can see here that I pulled a pan. That's the cheapest of chips. It's only worth 1 point, while the axe is the best for obvious reasons, and it's 8 points. The problem is, Jason Voorhees is going to show up occasionally, so when you draw him, you get nothing, and you put him on your card. And in fact, if you draw him twice, then you are so scared you'll drop all your supplies and you'll run back to the cabin. So getting him once puts you in danger. You can also play a fear card from your hand. So there's all kinds of fear cards. Some cards you'll play after somebody else has gone, but here I could pick another player who's not yet returned to the cabin. They draw 2 supply tokens. You pick one, and then they keep the other one, even if it's a Jason token. So there's all kinds of different cards that you can play on your turn instead of searching through the bag. And then finally, you can return to the cabin. If you don't want to push your luck anymore, you'll return to the cabin. You'll put your character token on the first space here. There's a reward for going back to the cabin. The first couple people get to draw another fear card. After that, you'll get blood points for staying out longer. Also, you're going to have a card here called a critical supply objective placed up here, and the first person to return back to the cabin with the exact things it shows on the card is going to get that many points. When you return back to the cabin and Jason Voorhees hasn't scared you, you went back on your own accord, then you can trade in all this stuff for blood-spattered points. And if you have a set of 3 of the same thing, you can turn another type into double points. If you're 4 of the same, you can turn 2 other things and double their points. 1 of each gives you 8 bonus points. And 6, having 1 of all 6 things will give you 12 extra points. You'll then turn your board over to show that you have returned to the cabin. Now, getting 2 of these tokens is not really a good thing because it busts you and you get nothing, but you do get 1 of these tokens in for the next night. And an escape token can simply be used to cancel one of these Jason token when you draw it. Also, after each night, you'll take a token here to show which night you're on now, and you throw that token in the bag, so there's more Jason tokens in the bag. Between nights, players can turn their card over and store items from one night to the next. So if you want to try to make a better set in a future night, you can store a couple things in your backpack. That's it. After the 5th night, if you have any fear cards left over, you can trade these cards in for 1 point each, and you add up your points, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Obviously, everything in this game is very much, you can turn this over, ooh, very scary and stuff. The cards themselves, so it's just kind of all in the background stuff, and all the cards you can see are blood spattered. There's small text on the cards. Maybe they can make it a little bit bigger, but they're not that hard to figure out. The rules for the game aren't bad. The chips you pull from the bag are like tiddlywink material. They're okay. They're different colors, which helps you differentiate between what they are. So when you pull this one, you're like, oh man, I pulled the red one here. And you're like, oh, a purple one. I haven't seen that. That's kind of rare. That's one of the rarer ones in the deck. But yeah, they're okay. And the bag at least is big enough to get your hand into. Yeah, if you like blood smeared all over your games, that's pretty much what this is. But I think the game definitely gets into the theme. So there you go. It definitely has this heavy overtone to it. And in fact, it says on the box here, it says 17 plus. It's really not, except for that, oh, people are getting murdered, but they're not really getting murdered. When you find Jason Voorhees the second time, you're just scared and you run. Like, there's almost no murder in this game at all. So the 17 plus isn't really there, except for maybe the blood splatters all over the board and things like that. It's a much lighter game. You can turn down the lights, you can turn the music on and make it spooky, ooh, but it's not. Now, the game itself is a push your luck style game. And you can go through and find a bunch of stuff, or you can bust. Now, the game has ways to stop you from busting. If you draw 2 of the red chips in a row, which is possible, then you have that chip for the next turn, so you can get rid of a red chip. Is it possible to draw 5 red chips in a row? That's fairly improbable, but it could happen. It could happen on the final turn. You need to score a lot of points to catch up, and you just don't. There's definitely luck there. And then there's all these cards flying around. So it has this lucky draw, and hey, I'm doing this, I'm playing this. The card, you're not going to get many cards. You draw 1 each night, and if you're the first person back, you draw another one. So you could play on average 2 or 3 a night, maybe even less than that. And they do change the game considerably, but it's still luck. It's simple. Many of the people I played it with have fun. I don't know that I am that excited about it. I don't dislike it. I just found it to be an okay style game. The concept is silly. It's horror, and I don't like horror, but this game doesn't feel that horrific. Although when you are reaching in the bag like, please, 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 oh, good. There's a bit of that there. There's a few kind of weird things, like the axe. There's only a couple axes, or one. I don't remember how many. There's just very few of them in the game. So one person drew the axe and just said, you know what, I'm just going to keep it in my backpack every night, and I'll turn it in on the final night of the game. It doesn't help me out that much, but it stops anyone else from getting it. I found that to be problematic. The rules weren't very clear on it, and I would almost make a house rule that if you do keep 2 items in your backpack, you cannot keep those same 2 items in your backpack the following night. But then again, I might be putting more effort into the game than it's really looking for. If you go back and look at my quartz review, I thought it was fine, nothing that exciting. And this is kind of the same thing. But it isn't a bad game, and if you do want to get together and have a spooky time, it is silly, and it does get into the theme enough that I think people will enjoy it. So that's Friday the 13th. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time. Dice Tower Judgment, a fast, light horror game.